I was just saying to my interns here and to my team, my supporting artists, I was going to show you how my favorite way to foil a hairline or detail a hairline. This is like my favorite pattern here. So my objective is to concentrate the blonding here and disperse it back to here. I'm going to do that with a series of slices, weaves, and then spaces in between those slices. So I'm basically just going to show you my favorite pattern. And then I usually do some kind of a shadow root here for blending. Actually, Alyssa, will you pour me a little bit more of the BB7? So I'm using Alpha Parf's Easy Lift 7. This is an on and off the scalp lightener. I love it for a lot of reasons. It's very tacky and it's gentle. I have never melted hair with this lightener. Has a bond builder in it. It's quite amazing in its performance. It's the cleanest lift I've ever used or I've ever gotten. This and their High Lift 9 level, which is an off the scalp lightener. So Alyssa, I'm gonna do 20 grams of lightener with 15 grams of 30 and 5 grams of 10 because I'm out of 20, but I'm also just kicking it up a notch because to speed up, I can speed up the processing time. So as you notice there, I just did two back-to-back slices so thin that I could see through them. And I'm almost getting that lightener right up to the scalp. I'm not afraid of bleeding here because of the texture of the lightener, and I'm not going to be putting her under heat. I'm keeping my application very clean. I'm going to do one more very thin slice, and this slice should be so thin that you can see through it. It's no wider than the width of your rat tail comb. Mind you, her hairline comes to a point here, or to a peak, so a widow's peak. And what was the question? 25 of 30 and 5 grams of 10. So her hair comes to a peak, so that's why I've foiled like this in that forward arrow motion. And I subdivided her top crown here in half, and I'm working my way back here. She actually parts on the side mostly, so as long as I have, Stephanie, which side is it? Is it this side over here that you part on?
Yeah, the other one.
This one, okay. So this is where I'm going to be seeing her pattern through here. But we're doing a partial today because I want to make sure that there's no dark spots or holes when she leaves. I want to make sure that we are covering everything from back here to up here. Plenty of light. So I just did 3 slices, right? Now I'm going to move on to my weave. I'm going to do 3 weaves. And this is going to be a back-to-back standard. Actually, I think I'm probably going to do a one-to-one pattern here, something along those lines. And if you're not confident weaving, when we hyper-focus on it is when we mess up. Edward, would you grab me more foils?
Yeah.
Thank you. If we hyper-focus on it, we start messing up. But what I like to focus on when I'm weaving is I'm looking at the tip of my rat tail comb here while I weave, and I'm keeping my speed consistent as I move through the hair. The only thing that you need to be working on is am I going to be doing a pick up, drop 1 pattern? Am I doing a pick up, drop 2 pattern, right? So, and your speed really determines that. My sewing machine motion is usually the same timing, but my speed changes. So I'm going to do 3 of these, right? Thank you, my love. So I'll talk about how I became a blonding expert or a blonding specialist. I am a huge advocate for education, obviously. I love educating. I feel like it's my duty and my role now that I'm a senior in this field, in this industry. Of course, I love classes, and I think that all has a place and is very valuable. But before I move on, I did 3 slices, I did 3 weaves. Now I'm going to do a space. So So this is gonna be a negative space slice right here. Nothing's gonna go on there. Followed by a very thin, go ahead and drop your head down just a little bit. A very, very thin slice, okay? And when you're slicing the crown like this, especially in a horizontal manner where you're gonna have a perpendicular part to it, make sure that those slices are paper thin. If you think it's thin enough, make it thinner, right? Unless you're going for more of a blocky or chunky look, okay? So I just left a negative space out. I did a very thin slice. You can see how thin that is, right? And then my next pattern of foil is, I'm not gonna leave negative space. I'm gonna bumper to bumper this with a pick up one, leave one highlight pattern. Okay, so talking about education, of course education is valuable, but I went to a salon early on in my career. As a booth runner, I didn't feel like I had many options, especially in Southern California. The industry was just, it was shaping and evolving. Commission was not it. And so I went to a booth runner. I worked around tons and tons of talented artists, not tons and tons. I say there was probably 4 really solid stylists that I was able to observe for a long period of time. One of them's name was Sunny. I talk about Sunny all the time. Sunny was a phenomenal colorist, right? So I had my station right next to her and I got to observe her work. So even on the days I didn't have clients, or if I was paying for time and I didn't have anything booked, I'd go in and I'd watch, right? So now, after 5 years of observing her in a salon, I finally was feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna do what she does, right? I'm just gonna duplicate whatever it is that I see her do to her clients, and I'm gonna start doing that to my clients. Well, I started building a name for myself as a blonding specialist. Mind you, we're starting this pattern over again. Let's go back to that. So I just did a negative space, I did a slice, and then I did a weave. Here's my negative space again. Here's my thin slice. And then I'm gonna do a weave after that. And I'm gonna duplicate that pattern of 3 over and over again as I get to the back. The only thing that's gonna get bigger is my negative space. So that's gonna start pushing those foils farther and farther apart. That's gonna increase the depth and the darkness as we move towards the apex, right? So I started copying whatever it was that Sunny was doing, and I actually started making a name for myself as a blonding specialist. And my hands became her hands, my brain became her brain, and this is one of the biggest reasons I'm an advocate for working in a salon with a collaborative environment, with veterans, with stylists of different skill sets, and different niches or genres of hair, you could say, because nothing is going to replace the type of education that you're going to get through observation and mentorship from a veteran stylist. So, like I said, I love formal education, but no 2-day class, no online course is ever going to replace the value of watching somebody work who's done it for decades, right? So I have Sunny to thank for the way that I foil. And mind you, you'll find that you'll naturally end up, many of us are visual learners, so many of us just end up duplicating exactly what we're already doing that our mentors do, right? But literally, I see Sunny's hands when I'm weaving. It is the weirdest thing, but I'm grateful. So here's my negative space. That's gonna be just a little bit larger, okay? Then I'm gonna move on to my next slice, still keeping it paper thin. Always being mindful of your tint load or your tint load on your brush. Here you can see I'm always in control of my paint. I don't like to work messy. I'm gonna put my maximum load here a few inches away from the root, and I'm just going to sneak my paintbrush into that top rivet there where I folded that foil back. The other thing you can do if you need to gain tension or pull that hair into the foil is you're gonna turn your brush vertically. And that's gonna give it a little bit more tension, so that way you can sneak that foil up or tuck it right up into that hairline or that parting. I always keep the tails here of my highlights and what I'm getting left out pushed to the same direction. Right, so now I'm gonna do the last of my pattern of 3. This is gonna be a pick up 1, drop 1 pattern, right? Boom, 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 boom. Sewing machine motion. Right, just controlled amount of tint or paint on my tint brush. Always, I can use a vertical motion if I really want to tuck those hairs down into the foil. I heard an artist once, I took a class. Oh my gosh, I cannot even remember who's the founders of Pulp Riot. I took one of her classes. I can't remember her name. Anyways, she said go in like an elephant. Go in like an elephant and creep up like a mouse. So that was her way of saying, can you grab that, the salon phone? Does anyone have the salon phone? Here. Thank you. So I'll show you what she meant by that. And of course, I'm increasing my negative space here just a little bit, just for a little bit more dimension. Mind you, if we're going to spend time in the sun naturally, we would be brighter around the face and the hairline, darker underneath where the hair isn't as exposed to the sun, and we also get darker towards the apex. A lot of that is because the vellus and baby hair. Hey! Hey! What's up?
We ate someone's sandwich.
Oh, is it mine?
I don't know. There's a sandwich on the floor again.
Oh my God.
I just want to see if it's...
It was mine. It was mine. It was mine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Love that for me. At least I ate half of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. My dog is a troublemaker. Okay, anyways, go in like an elephant, creep up like a mouse, right? So heaviest load right here as you start to disperse it up towards the top. I like to do a trifold. I don't like squishing my foils. I don't think it's necessary. Sunny didn't squish her foils, so why should I, right? Boom, 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 boom. Sewing machine pattern. I'm lucky enough that her regrowth is long enough that I can completely reset her pattern right now. It's been about 8 months since I've seen her. So, of course, if I was more concerned about following the pattern, if the regrowth was shorter, I'd be more mindful of what I'm picking up and leaving out, right? But one of the things I love about this lightener is that it's so gentle. I personally have no fear of overlapping. Of course, I'm not going to be negligent in that. Negative space right there. But if I overlap, it's not going to be detrimental to her hair by any means. So it's not something that I really have to worry about with this specific lightener brand. Do a slice right here. And then from here, I'm going to show you what my favorite thing to do is as far as tip outs are concerned. And I'll explain a little bit of my theory behind the tip out. So that's my hairline pattern. Basically what I want you to understand is we're condensing the brightness towards the hairline in the front. We started with 3 back-to-back slices, then we moved on to 3 back-to-back, bumper-to-bumper, one-to-one weaves, and then we moved into this pattern of 3 where there's negative space, then there's a slice, and there's a highlight pattern, and we just would duplicate it over and over again. And the more darkness and depth that we need to increase, the more negative space that we would have. If I even wanted to create more darkness and depth in between those foils, I can move it to a pattern of 4 where there's negative space, slice, negative space, and weave. Negative space, slice, and negative space, weave, right? We just duplicate that over and over again. Again, the more negative space that you leave, the more dimension and depth the hair is going to have. But I come from this era back in 2010 where it was like Kelly Clarkson highlights, and then there was like the bumper to bumper back to back highlight foils with like only 10% of natural in between, and everybody wanted to just be as blonde AF as they could. So I really honed in my fine highlighting skills, and I think y'all should too. I've noticed that the things that trend in are usually the things that are hardest to achieve. So we've seen a lot of cowboy coppers and reds lately, and as a colorist, you know, if you don't know reds well, it's hard to do. Well, that means when someone does it well, it's desirable, it's sought after, right? Same with highlighting. I'm noticing a lot of, I'm noticing a lot of highlighting coming back into the salon as a request with these back-to-back tight highlights, no bleed marks on the scalp, right? Which wasn't the thing when we were trending towards balayage and lived-in looks. Now it's Now it's like a privilege to have, or like a novelty to have a bumper to bumper, back to back blonding from a stylist who's confident and competent enough to do something like that, right? So always be honing in your skill set. Don't ever settle and be like, well, I'm a lived in specialist, so this is going to be enough for me, and I'm just not going to learn how to do any fine weaving or highlighting skills. I think you're doing yourself a disservice by talking yourself out of stuff like that, in all honesty, which is one of the reasons I want to be a master of my craft. I talk about that often too. And also one of the reasons that we require all of our interns to do blowouts, 20 blowouts back to back before they can graduate. It just comes down to hours and time behind the chair, understanding the hair, understanding the dynamics of hair, right? Nailing customer service, being confident with your communication skills and your basic marketing skills. Same thing goes with just like how you have to practice the refinement of those soft skills. You also, soft and hard skills, you also have to practice the refinement of your highlighting and your blonding. Don't settle for highlights that are always 1.5 inches off the scalp, because that's not always going to be the trend. And it's true. You know what I'm saying, though? Well, you've been doing hair long enough that you remember those back-to-back highlights. That was it. Like, that was the bumper-to-bumper highlight, you know? It was like, make me as blonde as you can, right? That was the idea. Will you grab me, Edward? Oh, there's a towel right there, actually. Alyssa, will you grab that towel? We're just going to lay this under her shoulders here. And will you see if we can find 2 butterfly clips? So what I did was I divided her in half at the nape, and I took a 4 diagonal section, and with a lot of tension, just 1 soft tease. This is a clay lightener with a 10 volume, you guys, but this is mixed at a 1 to 2. Like, this is my favorite thing to tip out with, I will tell you. Ooh, I hate seeing messes, so let's do that. I think if we're talking in terms of being a high value stylist, which we're hearing that a lot with our industry and coaching, and yeah, go ahead and clip that side first. Of increasing your client's value, increase your client's value, right? Well, and people, like, we're defaulting into this like robotic mode of like, I'm gonna give them a longer scalp massage. Like, that's not necessarily what we mean when we say increase their value. What we mean when we say increase their value is, 1, make sure you're meeting expectations with your work. Make sure that your work is delivering what you promise and say it's going to deliver, right? That's value. Hi, welcome. All right, I'm going to turn this way. So also on the topic of value, make sure you're delivering what you say you're going to deliver in the consultation, right? So, and then as far as value is concerned too, like, what are you doing that sets you apart? All that to say this: if you can work clean and neat, that also adds value to your services, right? So I notice a lot of stylists are just careless about where they set the hair, how their client is resting when they're processing. The client notices those things, and it makes you look less credible, in all honesty. So if we're talking about adding value, let's talk about adding value to our presentation and the way that we do in style hair. So if we're talking theory about this tip out right here, okay, this is a very organic placement. A lot of my sections are diagonal forward. And what I'm doing when I'm talking about hand painting is I often will look at the hair, and I will section it out in my mind's eye to 3 different sections. So it's like top 1/3, middle 1/3, and bottom 1/3, right? So from there, I'm looking at this imaginary line of demarcation or diffusion of color, LOD, demarcation or diffusion of color or brightness or whatever it is, right? So one of my tip outs, I'm going to diffuse between the second and first section. One of my tip outs, I'm going to diffuse between the second and the third section, right? And I'm going to alternate back and forth. So that way when I pull all the hair down and I comb it all out, you're not going to see every single piece that I diffused right at the same line. It literally is going to look like dark light at that point. So keep in mind when you're hand painting and you're looking to diffuse color, especially with tip outs, vary that line of diffusion. And a lot of that I'll do with just a teasing motion here, right? I'm just going to leave the tips out on this one. I might bring it up a little bit higher on this one. Again, this lightener is so safe and so gentle. I have no issue putting this on previously lightened hair. No issue at all. Hey, bad girl, I heard you ate my sandwich. How was that? Yeah? You happy now? You're not getting dinner today, just so you know that. Oh, eating people's sandwiches. Oh, yeah, that's right. Mommy's sandwich, specifically.
What's her name?
Lumiere. Yeah, we call her Lumiere.
I have 2 Frenchies.
Aw, Frenchies are a whole thing, I will tell you what.
I didn't know until, yeah, they're definitely a different breed, literally.
Okay. So that's a pretty self-explanatory system right there. Make sure that you're varying your line of diffusion or dispersion of color. And I hope this was helpful. If you guys have questions, you're welcome to subscribe to my Instagram, where I upload all these videos and answer private questions about education. I can even make specific tutorials based on request. And other than that, serve your clients well. Take pride in what you do. Be a high-value stylist. You guys have a good day.